very happy to be together again, especially going south. As you know, that's a big topic for us. And especially in the enormously capable hands of Marcella. We chatted before this started, and we realized that we first met in 2004. Then we did an exhibition in our townhouse in New York in 14, and now it's 24. So every 10 years, something happens where we collide in a very nice way. And she is powerhouse in the world of textile, working with different areas in the world, connecting also world techniques together. For instance, making textiles in China and then producing in her country. She is partner in the extant market, which is opening soon, which is becoming a very important craft market in Mallorca in May. She's going to show you her itinerary and her career. It's mind-blowing, and how much she did, in such a short time in a way. And so she is so knowledgeable that we can just feel very, very grateful that we can profit from her knowledge and her agenda and her friends, because she has friends also, not just in her country, but all over the world. So yes, please, Marcella, introduce us to your life.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Lee and Philippe, for the invitation to curate the World Hope Forum Colombia. As someone who has lived most of her adult life outside of Colombia, this is an honor, a challenge, and an opportunity for revision and questioning. Following my mantra, everything is personal, I have been digging into my archives and into memories to find rather surprising discoveries about my own relationship with my home country. I think the ambivalent feelings have to do perhaps with two things. Growing up in the middle of Colombia's drug war in Medellin, the city that was hit the hardest, and then having to face all the consequences of being a foreigner and of Colombia's bad image, such as having visas denied, being stopped in every airport, and looking rather suspicious often. In spite of these realities that now thankfully are vanishing memories, and thanks to this great opportunity, I was delighted to find a few unknown discoveries that I will share with you and that could not have happened anywhere else in the world. In Colombia, I fell in love with the countryside and with wearing ponchos and any type of ancestral clothing. Here, I find the roots of my brand Noir mud silk, all based in ancestral and geometric patterns. In Colombia, I fell in love with telling stories. One of my first jobs was working with Villegas Editores, a very important editor, focusing on titles all related to Colombia. I think he has more than, 500 books about Colombia. Then, I had the opportunity of working in fashion, crafts, food, all kinds of titles. But for me, books took too long. So I immediately turned to magazines and did a lot of work in Axis, Harper's Bazaar Latin America, and a few international publications where I corresponded while living briefly in Colombia. In Colombia, I fell in love with photography, also one of the building blocks of my career and my storytelling. In Colombia, I learned that a brand was a way to capture a whole universe. I worked briefly with a branding agency from London called the Image Bridge, where I had the opportunity of creating some of Colombia's most renowned brands, such as Telecom, Éxito, Pomona, Sal de Frutas Lua, and an endless list of fantastic projects where I got to travel the country and learned a lot. In Colombia, I became curious about who was behind the beautiful objects I grew up admiring, the leather makers in Jericó. that you can see in the images here. The gypsies in Bogota, who had been displaced from Santander and had only memories and a few pictures to which to rebuild their heritage and continue their lives in the city. The jewelers working with pre-Columbian techniques. The Guayús with their colorful mochilas and chinchorros. The Arhuacos, who reside in one of Colombia's most sacred territories, who call us their younger siblings and whose world vision is represented in the mochila, one of the most perfect ancestral designs. Lee, remember I gave you a white mochila the first day we met? I hope you still have it.
I do, and I still have it.
The Sicuanis, who I visited after a day-long bus ride in the middle of the Eastern Plains, once I was granted access to their sacred territory. I had heard that about this community and their ritual stools that are carved by every father for their daughter and that represent their hopes, aspirations, and dreams. When I went the second time, this time in a truck, to pick up 50 ritual stools for Donna Karen, one very puzzled lady asked me if perhaps they didn't have chairs in New York. This became the title of an article for Departures magazine, and I think the sentence that really defined my love, appreciation, and admiration for the South. Fast forward, New York, 2002. Excuse the quality of the photos because this was not the time of digital photography. I launched the revolution with the help of Donna Karen, who at the time was starting Urban Zen. It was the first time that maku baskets from the Amazon, hammocks from the Guayús, huergue baskets, copper furniture, Sicuani ritual stools, etc., could be in the windows of Madison Avenue, featured by New York Times and shown with pride and curiosity. Later, designers such as Cloda, Tory Burch, and brands like Anthropology and Pottery Barn followed. You can see the ritual stools here. Long time ago. Here, Christina came working with the Arhuacos for their mochila collection that I think has become a staple of her brand. This is my mother's bracelets on the cover of Vogue. Fast forward, and I'm sitting in Madrid, 2024, surrounded by 7 powerhouses who will tell us about why Colombia is a place of hope, possibility, and great sophistication.
I know that it was very interesting for you to go through your albums of photos to think about what it is to be Colombian, especially now that you're living outside the country like you have been for several decades. What do you think it is that you learned in the past month or two that is defining the Colombianness that you feel personally?
I think it's a very strong connection with the land, with the ancestors. That's almost, I think, part of the DNA. It's pride, is strength, is a sense of knowing that we are the carriers and that we have a responsibility for the continuation of, this food, these crafts, this landscape, And this is something we're going to see today with all the speakers from different angles of how we have the responsibility for this to continue, because I never understood that my career could not have happened if I would have been born anywhere else. I mean, it had to be born from this land and from these circumstances, from meeting, you know, the gypsies, for example, and helping them redo their products with the work of their hands, just from memories, because they had been displaced. If maybe I would have seen the products there was no job to be done. So I think, you know, I think there is a lot of healing, a lot of things to be done, but there is a lot of material to do it with. And I think that's beautiful and powerful. And it seems to me that the world is ready to hear about a different point of view from Colombia. And I think also the aesthetic of Colombia is very, very interesting. And I could not have built what I've done in my life, you know, if it were not for this kind of aesthetic, I think.
So it's also full of a lot of hope. So we're excited to hear all these stories of hope. I think it's also very fortunate that you're born into this incredibly creative family, because you have the most amazing mother in the world. And today we also have your cousin who is speaking. So it's like everybody in the family is just intrinsically talented and has the most amazing taste. So I don't know what DNA you have in Medellin, but there's something in the house and in the food of this family.
I think is eating a lot of beans, you know, beans, arepas, you know, these high mountains. And I think also we're waking up from a very turbulent history. So I think it's also that. I think it's like we're ready to tell a different story.